Like when you're thinking about what the hell can I buy somebody who is a reasonably close friend, you want to get them something that they're going to enjoy, but it's very low risk for you as a purchaser because you know they're going to like it. A scented candle is one of those kind of gifts. There's others, of course, but this is a really big one. Anytime you get somebody a candle, you know it's going to be well received, and therefore they sell like hotcakes online. How much online? Well, according to Helium 10, page one results on Amazon.com is just under $10 million a month, just on page one of Amazon. So, we're probably looking double that when you take into consideration all the different niches within that as well. So around the $20 million a month kind of mark on Amazon. So how to get into this. So quick little bit of background, because there's quite a few different things that you can enter this market with. And the first one is, what style of candle do you enter into the market with? So there's a few different ones, but I think these are the main ones. And these are called jar candles. And as the name suggests, it's a candle in a jar. Simple as that. You would have seen these. They're absolutely bloody everywhere. These, I believe, are the most popular candles, certainly on Amazon anyway, and certainly as a gift, because it also combines the lack of mess that can go along with other styles of candles, which I'll show in a second. Okay, so that's a jar candle, just to give you some terminology. These are pillar candles. So pretty much the same thing as a jar candle, only taller and not encased in a glass jar. So as simple as that. Okay, so pillar candles. And again, these suit. So start thinking now about the aesthetic that these would suit if you were to give them as a gift. Who would be open to receiving something like this? What sort of candle, a pillar candle, would that sort of person be interested in? Start thinking about the target market that you could go after with that. Anyway, these are pillar candles. And then the last one is votive candles. These are kind of a much smaller, almost like a tea light candle almost. But there's somewhere in between, like a tea light, which hopefully you've all seen what they are, and the pillar kind of candle. They're kind of in between those two as far as height goes. And again, these are also super, super popular, super, super popular. So that's your candles, what you can look at. But then you can start thinking about two different elements of the candles. And by far, the most contentious element of the candle is what it's made out of. What is the candle actually made out of? Well, turns out the very, very best stuff to make a candle out of is paraffin. That's usually the best one. So it's petroleum-based wax. And that is, for most people, that is the candle that's going to burn best, creates the least amount of smoke, has got the most consistent burn to it, all sorts of really great things about it. Unfortunately, it's also considered to be unsustainable. So if you're selling into a market where sustainability, and let's face it, a lot of people are looking at sustainability now. If you're selling into a market that is concerned with sustainability, they may not be so interested in paraffin-based candles. So what's the other one? Well, the other one is beeswax. And there's a thing around beeswax as well, which I think it just sounds more luxury. It just sounds more upper market. But again, there's some issues with that. Depending on the marketplace you're going into, like, is it a vegan candle, for instance? Some people have gone after the vegan marketplace. Is it a vegan candle? Well, if it is, then, you can't sell a beeswax candle into that marketplace and things like that. So there's a couple of different things to be mindful of. But I think in general, all things being equal, paraffin candles are absolutely the best ones to go for. So then I started looking at, well, who's doing this really, really well? From what I've seen, certainly as a direct-to-consumer brand selling off places like Shopify and things like that, there's two ends to the story, two very, very good markets to go after. The first one is the kind of luxury end of the market, where you develop a luxury brand that is very expensive. So if somebody receives your, whatever it may be, candle, whatever your brand name candle is, then they know that was an expensive gift. And so you get the cachet associated with giving a gift that was expensive. Okay. And some brands that are doing that very, very well is these guys. So Diptyque Diptyque. I hope I pronounced that correctly. These do that very well. And look, their candles are around that kind of like $82 a pop. So not cheap. Okay, not a cheap candle. And this 190 grams is a normal kind of standard size candle. Okay, so it's not like it's a huge candle or anything like that, but $82. Okay, they do it very, very well. I also think from a branding point of view, I really, really like what these have done. This is Voluspa. If you look at some fashion-based websites, it seems that they have taken an amazing amount of cues from fashion and from high-end fashion specifically. This has kind of got that Laura Ashley kind of vibe to it, but they've done a really good job of combining fashion with candles and kind of smudging them together. I think they've done a really good job of that. That's Voluspa, and again, you know, it's expensive. $225 for a candle is, by any stretch of the imagination, it ain't cheap. Okay, so they're at the luxury end of the market. And then I also looked at who was kind of new and innovative and doing some interesting things in this market as well. I really like these. This is Boy Smells. I think these do a very, very interesting job, and I don't know for sure if this is what they've done, but at first blush, looking it through, it certainly seems to me like they've taken cues from fragrance companies like Tom Ford and Issey Miyake and other kind of fragrance companies like that, like very, very high-end luxury fragrances, and then turn those fragrances into candles. Like at first blush, looking through what they're selling, I picked up a lot of the same terminology that, for instance, Tom Ford uses. When he's talking about his scents, I saw a lot of that same terminology. Very, very clever. You already know that there's a market for Tom Ford perfumes and colognes and aftershaves and shit like that. Clearly, that's a very, very smart way of doing it. But outside of that, I really think their branding is on point as well. I mean, getting Grace Jones to do anything, that's friggin' awesome. That woman is an absolute living legend. So she's clearly got some kind of deal with these people for her own candle within this as well, okay? The other one, which I really, really like, is Heretic. Again, I think these do a great kind of mid-price range, but these are like the Bobbi Brown or MAC Cosmetics, ladies. It's that kind of branding that they've gone after, that positioning in the market that they've gone after. And it's interesting to think about that. You know, where is the positioning? Where is the positioning of the brand? Because not ordinarily we wouldn't associate a candle with having like a brand positioning in the minds of the marketplace, but that's where it's going. So I thought that was kind of cool, very, very interesting. And also it then means, of course, given that that's where it's going, our job is simply to find a underserved niche within a given group of customers. So that for that, we can look to cosmetics companies, we can look to fashion companies, we can look to fragrance companies and find that, and then transplant that same look, feel, and indeed even fragrances, the scents of the candles onto a brand. Okay, so I kind of like that as well. I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, and then the last one I really, really like as well was Illume. These have got a very, very interesting aesthetic as far as homewares. They've really gone after that home insider interiors, like all of their marketing that they're doing on their website anyway, speaks to them placing a candle within a given environment. And I think that's an interesting way of approaching it as well. Oh, again, it's just a different way of approaching exactly the same kind of thing. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs as well. So anyway, that's the kind of brandings that I really thought were interesting, the high end and the low end. And now, of course, you've got to ask yourself, well, where the freaking hell do I get these things made? So I did some research over the weekend. These are very, very good candle making companies that will do custom formulated candles in a variety of different materials, whether that's paraffin or beeswax, whatever it may be. They'll custom formulate that for you, and they'll do low MOQs as well to get you up and running. More importantly, okay, low MOQs to get you up and running. So these guys are called Baoding Bee Ladies Home Products, kind of cool. And I also found as well M and Sense Su Zhao, which also do some cool stuff as well. And just to go back to what Sue was saying about the different product lines and things like that, look through their product lines. They do not just candles, but they do a whole heap of that kind of scented things as well. Okay. So pretty cool. I think there's a real opportunity there within the marketplace. What I'm going to do is just because for me, I like taking notes about shit, and I thought it makes it kind of easy for me to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to post all of my notes that I made over the weekends into the group. Okay, so that's in there now. That includes what money's to be made, the different kinds of candles that you can actually do, the different sorts of candles that there are, talking about the different waxes that I found as well. And then the ideas, what I thought did really well from a branding point of view as well. So these are at the top end of the market, and these are kind of like a middle of the range kind of brands that are doing interesting stuff in the middle, right down to where I found which would be really, really good to source them from. Okay, so I really hope that somebody kind of takes that by the horns and runs with it. I believe there's a shitload of opportunity there within that marketplace. It seems like one of those marketplaces, what's as far as assigning a brand to a avatar, like thinking about who is the end user of this candle, most companies on Amazon have not thought that through at all. And that's a 10 million a month marketplace just on page one of Amazon. There's a lot of, and that's just on Amazon.com. Who knows, or if you take the combined amount of that, but still, there's some really cool things in there. I thought that was a really interesting niche. That was a video from my regular Monday night session with the members of the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs. We are a community of e-commerce professionals right around the world, making sales on Amazon, on eBay, on Shopify, all sorts of different places, with sales, by the way, of over $50 million. There's 2,500 members and growing. We're actually the fastest growing community of e-commerce professionals in Australia right now. If you'd like to find out more about what we do, and also come and join us, of course, then get yourself off to www.aussieontrepreneurs.com.au. The link for that is in the description, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.